Welcome to another episode of the Office Altering Hiring and Empowering Solutions podcast. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. And if you're a first-time listener, hopefully you will become a long-time listener. As always, I'm your show host, Molly McGrath, founder of Hiring and Empowering Solutions and the creator of this revolutionary podcast. You can check us out at hiringandempowering.com. Today's theme, I am so excited to have one of my lifetime friends, Matt Deliberato and Karen Robinson of the Deliberato Law Firm. You can find them at www.icanprotect.com. And today we are going to be speaking about just having a real impromptu coffee clutch in regards to the attorney letting go of the design meeting and the signing meeting and turning it over to his paralegal, Karen, who is the jack of all trades. She's also doing bookkeeping, and she's also doing drafting and everything else, and a very, very busy law firm. So I'm so excited to have you guys here. Hi, Matt. Hi, Karen. Thank you.
Hi, Molly. Thanks for having us.
Oh, thanks for being my guest. I'm so excited. So I'm going to make this super simple and simplistic and chunk it down in regards to talk to me. Maybe, Matt, you can talk real quick and share with us how you even got to a comfort level of letting go and allowing a non-attorney team member facilitate and take over, number one, the design meetings, and number two, the signing meetings in your law firm. Can you talk to us a little bit about that process of turning that over to Karen?
Sure, absolutely. And, I don't want to say it's because I don't want to do those things, but I think as an attorney, or an estate planning attorney, elder law attorney, I think you get burned out. You get burned out a little bit of doing the same thing over and over and over. It really becomes monotonous. And so I wanted to find what really hit home for me. And I know that that's workshops and vision meetings. For me, those are where I excel. It's what I love to do, and that's where I wanted to be. I guess to say a little bit is that I've known Karen a lot longer than she's been working for me. So there is more of a comfort level, I think, of knowing Karen's work ethic and her personality. But I think it's doable for anybody. And it's just a matter of, it is just letting go. It really is. And so I think what we started doing was Karen would come in to a meeting with me and just started shadowing every meeting possible, from vision to design to sign. She's attended the workshops. I always say I think Karen could take over vision meetings as well, because I think she's just a rock star when it comes to estate planning. Probably should send her to law school. Done with that, she says, no way. But, and it works really well because I think the clients are set up ahead of time to know where the process is and what's going to happen. And we say Karen does design. So your next meeting is going to be with Karen. Karen will come in and do design. And in design, we're going to ask you a bunch of questions. And it's going to take you some time. And I have attorneys ask me all the time, why does it take so long to design a trust with you? And I say that's because we give every option possible to the client. Now, we draft in hot docs through Action Step, and I think it's worked really well, but Karen will actually go in with a laptop and go through the interview. Now, she's pre-populated a lot of the steps, and I'll let her talk about that, but I think what helps in design is that she's really putting it right into the system, ready to draft. And people don't mind the computer as long as you don't stare at the computer the whole time. But that has been very helpful because it's a good tool and guide for her, saves a lot of time on the back end as far as re-entering into the system. And, Karen has learned, I think when you shadow enough, you start learning the issues and ideas of the things that are happening with people to make sure you're asking the right questions and how you ask them and what the consequences to those questions are. So design to me is probably the easiest to let go. Signing.
Hang on a second before you go on to a signing meeting. I want to jump in here because attorneys' heads are probably exploding right now. What the hell? She's doing a design meeting? That's malpractice. You can't do that. Talk to me a little bit about, did you ever have any of that head trash going on?
No, I didn't. I do feel that I supervise all of our work here, and I touch every case that I see. Now, I may not be involved with every issue, but we will touch base on our team meetings. If not, Karen and I will go over, what happened in the design meeting. Were there any bumps in the road? Were there any questions? Does the client have any issues? Listen, if you're worried about giving it up, pop your head in. Spend the couple of minutes, but you have to have that out. You can't go in and, as most attorneys I think want to do is take over that meeting. And I have the same problem. It's why I try to stay out as much as I can. Karen will say, "Oh, can you pop in and say hello to these people?" I'm like, "No, I can't, because I can't do that. I can only do the whole meeting, So I will, but towards the end usually. But no, look, I think if you have a good system in place in which you're asking all the questions that need to be asked, it's absolutely doable. And I don't have malpractice issues, knock on wood. And that's because I think, I think like most estate planning attorneys, we actually care about our clients. And so you're doing the right things. And if there's any issues in design that come up, I'm involved right away. And that's what I think makes it work.
And a lot of times we teach, you follow the tool, you follow the law. So I love that Karen's going in with the laptop and being able to architect, to build the plan. And it really comes down to following that design template. Number one, when you talk about systems and process. And then number two is really your goal. I like it. I have many firms that have non-attorneys doing that design meeting. And it's because sometimes the attorneys overcomplicate it and a confused mind says no. They go too deep in the weeds with the legal ease versus the powerful human questions that you have to ask so they can sleep better at night, right?
Oh, that's so true. So true. I mean, you're taking a totally different perspective on design and drafting when you have someone who's not always thinking like an attorney. Absolutely.
Great. So Karen, how was your comfort level? So you shadowed Matt, and I know you all have been together for so very long, and the clients just love you. I mean, you were one of his first employees, and now you have an extraordinary team. And so how was your comfort level sitting down in that very first meeting with the safety net gone without Matt in the room?
I really did attend enough, and I've been part of the process for so long before I actually started doing them. I wouldn't say that I was very nervous at all. I like being prepared for a meeting, so I would say one of the things that really helps me is getting that personal information form ahead of time. I take the time and I'm prepared before I ever walk into that design meeting, and in the hot docs, I already have all of the family members' information already entered. So I kind of go through the interview. People are, they're really creatures of habit. And I can't tell you, so many people answer some of the questions the same exact way. So I run through the entire interview and especially have the questions that I need to have answered for the state of Ohio already done. So that when I go in that meeting, I'm completely prepared. I know who the people are, and it becomes more of a conversation. I open up that hot docs interview, and I'm just confirming the spelling of everybody's names and their birth dates, but it's more of a conversation, and it's not me sitting there pecking away. When I start asking the questions that I do have to peck a little bit, it's really, they don't even realize I'm doing it because it's all about conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how many times that families have just said, "Oh, I love working with Karen. Thank you. She was great." You let go and you'll see the potential of what you can get out of people.
Exactly. And one thing, Karen, you mentioned about the personal information form. We all know that is the biggest roadblock and headache of getting that information back from the client. So even when you get even just 10% of it filled out or what have you, it's very helpful. It's not always that every single client is. I don't want people to be delusional that you're getting 100% return rate of personal information forms filled out 100%, correct?
Correct. We do that in the vision meeting. And if it's not complete, we ask for it. We ask them to complete it. And mostly, we just confirm. We just really need the information so we don't have spelling errors in your documents. It just really minimizes that.
So how long have you been doing design meetings now, Karen?
Wow, I don't know.
No, probably
at least a year.
At least a year.
Maybe longer.
Yeah, maybe longer. I would agree.
Okay. So any pushback from clients, and I really, I want to say this out loud. Matt's law firm is an area where he grew up, where his father owns a funeral home. His family is very, very well regarded, and they have overcome, and they still overcome every single day. I want Matt. I want Matt. I want Matt. How do you overcome being in such a close-knit community where everybody knows Matt, his family, his lineage? How do you overcome this stereotypical thing that people are getting cheapened because they're meeting with Karen versus the guru, Matt, in the design meeting?
I think what helps is the vision meeting and me just teeing it up, right? I'm the one who's saying, okay, here's the deal. Here, you're moving on. Now, we have another attorney who also takes vision meetings, but I usually take the ones where there's some kind of relationship or somehow we know. But really that first touch for me being the guru and then saying, great, you're in great hands and Karen's going to be going through the design meeting. I don't get pushback. I don't at all. And I think it's because I'm the one directing it.
And I think it's because you spend so much time, like you said, teeing it up in the vision meeting, number one, but number two, they feel like so much like you're handling them with white gloves and VIP service in that vision meeting, that the time's so precious with you because you do go very well into detail in regards to their story, what's waking them up at 2 a.m, and really pulling all that out of them in that initial meeting. So that second meeting really just feels like data entry, for lack of a better term, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I have been every turn you can take where you can say my team instead of we, you use all that language like this is just how it works. There's no difference. They don't balk because there's no option. The option is this is how it works here. And I think you just keep plugging away at the fact that it's we, team, we, not I. And I find myself saying I'm sorry, we. When I say we, I mean our team here, because we have a team approach. And I think people are very accepted to that.
Absolutely. So Karen, how often do you feel, especially in the beginning, if you can even remember that time, where you feel that you got tripped up with technical legal questions and or questions you couldn't answer during that design meeting?
I never got nervous. I always knew that Matt was just a few steps away. Depending on the question that was, troubling us, it would either be a conversation that I would say, I'm going to just cover that with Matt, or let me go find out. And Matt was always available for any troubles along the way. And really, I never had any pushback from the clients. They were always fine and glad that I was willing to reach out and was able to answer them.
Well, and it's interesting too, Molly, because what happens is Karen will come out and we'll either do one of two things. Hey, I need you to answer this question, or hey, I need you in this meeting. And so I know right away whether the issue is really important or somewhat important. And then I go in and we say, oh, okay, what was great. Yeah, here's how we resolve that. Boom, 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 boom. Karen says, thank you. I say, thank you. I step out. Great. It works 100% of the time. We don't have issues. We don't have issues.
And as you're saying that, I'm like, well, even if Matt's not in the building, how great, because Karen, what I'm hearing from you is I don't get tripped up. I'm fully confident to say, listen, that's a great question. When I go back to design your plan, I meet with Matt and I will get clarification on Matt and we'll make certain we handle that. And then I can just show you the solution we came up with in the signing meeting. So what I'm hearing is you're owning that meeting and you're not like freaking out or stopping the meeting and sweating and hunting down Matt in the office, because your clients, you're teaching them how it goes. They're looking to you to say, all right, how's this meeting go? You're the facilitator, you're navigating it. So even if they have a question, Matt's not there, you don't feel that it's like earth shattering that you have to go hunt Matt down. You can just capture it. You can let them know that you heard them, that you've identified it, you will handle it, and then you will circle back around with them and tell them exactly what the decision was and why it was that decision based on what the attorney, the expert, the guru recommends.
Actually, I just said that to Matt the other day. I think that the real key in any of the meetings, whether it's vision, design, sign, is the confidence that you're showing in yourself when you're in those meetings, so that they can feel confident that they're with somebody who knows what in the heck they're talking about and isn't afraid to find out the answer if they need it. But I think that's the key to being successful in any of those meetings, is just being confident with what you do and what you're doing for them.
Confident and comfortable, because it's just a conversation, even though it has this legalese term of design next to it. I love what you said, when they know that you know what the heck you're talking about. And that's exactly it. It's, you teach people how to behave. So if you're having a freak out or a meltdown moment, and there's even newbie attorneys that do that, and you don't need to know all the answers, but you can just tell them what to expect. Okay, great. That's when this part is information gathering, just clarifying and verifying your beneficiaries, all the pieces that you want. This is what you told us in the initial vision meeting and your goal setting meeting. And now we're going to go back to the factory, so to speak, and meet with the brain surgeon, i.e. Matt, the attorney. And we're going to take all this data, all this information, all your vision, all your goals, and then we're going to go back behind the wizard's curtain and build it for you. So these are some areas I'm going to get clarification, and we're really going to make certain that your goals are accomplished. And I'll explain to you what we came to at the design or signing meeting, rather.
Exactly.
Right.
I love that analogy. I think I'm going to put a curtain in front of my desk.
Oh
boy, his head's going to get big, Karen.
I know. And then let me add it right after that design meeting. If I have my preference, I go right back to my office and I simply assemble the documents while they're really fresh in my mind, and then print them.
Wow. So let me ask you this. You just triggered how long's your design meeting? How long do you schedule it for?
I schedule an hour and a half so that they feel comfortable and not rushed. I very rarely use maybe an hour.
And then that's regardless if it's an RLT, an AP1, asset protection 2, what have you. You're still.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, because on will plans, Molly, what we do is we take a vision and turn it into a design, because we try to either get them that day, get their documents done, or one more appointment. So if it's a will plan, we're moving them really quickly.
Right.
Okay, great. All right. And then Karen, you go back to your desk and you pump it out, ideally, if you're not back to back with meetings, what have you. Since you're doing a lot of that information gathering in the conference room, what would you say? How long is it taking you to complete the plan when you go back to your desk?
Maybe 20 minutes.
And then it's ready for review and print and assemble?
Yep, it's ready for review and draft my deed.
No, she's amazing. In 20 minutes, she's got it printed.
Yeah. Yeah, usually.
Wow.
Usually it's done in about 20 minutes, printed in the binder. As long as I have a signing date, I'm good to go. And as soon as when we're done with our vision, I like to have them schedule a design and then the signing meeting, so that they're on the books and we don't have to worry about it after their design. So usually by the beginning of the design meeting, I know when they're coming in to sign. So as soon as the meeting's over with, I throw in that signing date and then go ahead and print it.
And ideally, how long between design and sign?
We usually do them about a week. We can do them as quick as a week apart. Usually you find a client that might have Wednesdays off, and so they keep coming back. They'll come back the following Wednesday to get their documents.
Oh my goodness.
And then if they can't do it that quick, then we move it out, whatever's convenient.
All right. So here's what I hear from people all the time. We don't print, we don't assemble, we don't do the documents until the day the client's coming in, because what if they change their signing date?
So you print more paper.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Worst comes to worst, we'll change the date on it. That's, the signature page is the date. But other than that, and that's really, it doesn't happen that often here.
Because I'm sure you guys can remember. I know I remember the days of printing out the documents as the client's pulling into the parking lot. How was that?
So that really goes against my grain. It just makes shivers go up my spine. I can't operate like that. I need to be prepared.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
And so you have it printed, Molly. That's my chance to review. I go over the highlights, the big provisions in there as to what they're doing and make sure everything looks right. And then you're good to go. So if you need to reprint because of dates, you've wasted some paper. Big deal.
Exactly. But it's something that Mary, your client services, or someone else can do as well, right?
Right. Exactly.
How long do you schedule the signing meeting for?
We still always do an hour and a half for appointments. That gives us time, I think, between the next one. So if we spend an hour, I have a half hour before the next one. But we'll still schedule an hour and a half. But I want to say that signing meetings were probably the hardest thing for me to let go. It was
over design.
Really? Absolutely. Because I think
about that.
Because signing to me is where you get the nuts and bolts. You're really going over. And as I review a trust, I don't know how other people do it, but when I review or we review a trust, see, there's that we thing again. When we review or go over a signing, we go over the highlights, right? We're not going page by page. And so it's important for me for the client to remember as much as possible out of that meeting. And so it was, I don't know why it was difficult. It was just difficult because I think that was one of the last contacts with that client. You let them go into the world with this new plan, and now you're never going to see them again. It was one of those things that I guess I wanted to be the farewell person, but
we always come back for maintenance.
Well, right, maintenance or reviews, but still, I think that although it was hard, it was probably one of the most rewarding things to let go of, because I thought maybe it was more legal technical than I thought really it was. And it's really going over their choices that they did in design. And no one's ever going to understand 60 pages of a trust. They're going to understand what it does for them and the highlights of who gets what, when, and how.
Wow. You just said something really powerful, Matt, because I've known you for so many years. You're such a relationship guy, and you care deeply about every single person that walks into your office, whether they come from BizBam Facebook ad or they come from the funeral home and you've known 3 generations of their family. I know that about you. And that was really interesting for me to hear of. It was partially about the technical legal, but also just the celebration and, almost like letting your kid go off to get on that kindergarten bus.
Yeah, it really is. That's so true. But Karen's done a phenomenal job. And I think it's because she's been sitting in with me enough to know and to get the idea of what's important. What do they need to walk away with? For me, a signing meeting is not understanding the trust. It's understanding what they just did and the other documents. So, yeah, it was really, really hard for me to let go. But again, probably one of the most rewarding moments of my life to say, oh my gosh, I've given somebody the tools to be able to do this and do it well. It's amazing.
So Karen, can you walk us through a high level that signing meeting? How was it for you to sit and take over that first signing meeting?
That was probably a lot worse than the design meeting, because I always knew on the design meeting I could still see them again, but on the signing meeting, it's pretty much going over the final document. So we do give the hour time, so that extra half hour time is also comforting, because in case there is something that didn't come across right in the conversation in the design meeting, we always have time to still fix it while they're still here. So the initial sign meeting was probably terrifying, but I feel more confident because I understand the process. And then I actually know the people by now that I usually know them and what they were looking for, and so many family dynamics in one meeting,
Well, that's interesting.
So interesting.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because when you think about it, that's the key, is that design now at signing, they know you.
Right.
They're used to you.
Yeah.
They like you.
Yeah, so we're getting along, and and you kind of learn if it's a couple, who's the stronger ones, who's gonna ask you more questions and
more details.
Right. Do they require? And by then, I have an idea whether they want a lot of details or whether they just want to get me out of here and tell me what I got to do. Right. So some people are like that; they don't want all that detail, and you can kind of pick up on that.
And that's what I'm not good at. But in vision meetings, that's one of the questions I have on my checklist for vision meetings. Do you want details or do you want the bottom line? And that, I think, is helpful for Karen going into design and sign to say, oh, yeah, you've got Mr. Smith, who is an engineer and needs to know every little piece in and out of this. And Mrs. Smith could care less and just wants the bottom line. That's so helpful, I think, in doing design and funding, which thank God we're doing this podcast, because now I'll be more compliant.
Karen, you get to shove this in his face every time he violates. I love that. And I remember when we implemented that and putting that in the beginning of the vision meeting, but for the people. So Karen, what I'm hearing from you is when you sit at this signing meeting, ideally about an hour, under an hour and a half max, if you have your high fact finder engineers, analytics in there. Or are you going over just the high provisions of the articles and anchoring them back to either the stories in the workshop? Because I know your process, you do a workshop model where you do a tremendous amount of stories versus data. And talk to us a little bit about what that signing meeting looks like and what you're doing in there. Are you going just high level and anchoring them back to, you said you wanted this, and this is where it is in the article in the trust?
I go through each document, making sure that they understand just the basics of, the grantor's roles, the trustees' roles, the beneficiaries. And then I just kind of pick out, I explain to them, I kind of bring in the funding also. When you go to the bank and you give them this trust and you're changing over your accounts, they're going to, they're not giving you a hard time. So again, I still keep this conversation, even though we're going over the documents almost page by page. I don't hit every page. I'm still bringing it back. It's all a conversation, and I'm explaining to them what they can expect when they start their funding and where the information is that they need to find that's important to them. So as I go through each article in the trust, I am, personalizing it as I go through it, identifying their disability panel, doing their specific requests and making sure that we have that pinpointed exactly how they want it. And then again, the beneficiaries, is everybody getting it? And what are they going to do with their, if one child would predecease them, is it the way that they want it? Should it go back to the other siblings or to the children? If not either one of those, where do you want it? Just confirming that everything that we discussed in that design is actually happening in those documents. And then I do the revocable trust if there is one. And then we move on to the will. Just reviewing each and every article and confirming that everything that they requested was in those documents. And then going over the power of attorney, how important it is that that's the original document, you don't write on them, and, just your basic information. So healthcare also.
So you're done with that. You go through all that, and I'm going to take this is my podcast, so I can say this, a pain in the ass clients that are the high engineers and the skeptics. I'm going to take them out of the equation of this question, and I'll talk about them next. But the average Joe and Mary, that you're going through this, you're facilitating the conversation, you're paying attention, you're looking at them, they're shaking their heads. If they're looking like a deer in a headlight, you're stopping, you're clarifying, verifying, what have you. What percentage after you're done going through them are like, now have 7,000 questions, or they're like, this is fantastic, and they have 7,000 questions about you and the grandkids?
I have to say that I don't have a lot of questions. When I'm done with each document, I ask them if there's any questions. If they if there's anything they want me to go over in more detail. I really do not get the kickback. And at the end, they're grateful and they all say, well, that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. So I'm like, great. And if you have any problems from here, then I'll touch base on their funding, I review the funding summary and then send them on their way.
I have to highlight that where you say, well, that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
Matthew, I bet you when you were doing it, they were probably had millions of questions because you were showing up all legalese on them and showing them the spark plugs when all they want to know they had JBL stereo.
The funny thing is, no, I'm not your typical legal technical person. I am sitting there thinking, if I walked away from this meeting, what do I want them to remember? What do I want? There's no way in any signing meeting you can go over and have them understand most things. It's just confirming their selections and the purpose of why they did a revocable. Why did they do an asset protection trust? And to kind of pound that in is better than going over anything legal technical. So maybe I'm one off, but I never did it that way. And I think that's the important reason why Karen can do signing meetings, right? It's not legal technical. The more legal technical you get, the more they just tune out.
Yeah. So for anyone listening that it does not have a Karen in their office and they're still facilitating their own signing meetings, that's a great nugget for you to remind our attorneys that maybe aren't in a position to start letting go of that and take that wise wisdom from Matt to it's not about technical legal at all. So Karen, lastly,
that's who trained me. So
talk to me about the high analytic engineers that are in the room other than your exceptions, not your norms, and how you manage that for any type of client that in that signing meeting wants to go over every detail and or has additional technical legal questions for you throughout the meeting, how you kind of steer them away and not let them take the meeting down and you just, put that on the shelf, and then how you handle it at the end.
I think that if I have technical questions, another thing that really does help me is that I work with Matt on the crisis planning. So a lot of this, I know and I meet with the clients down the road as to if they don't do the planning. So and what the consequences are of not planning. So when they do come back to me with legal technical, a lot of times I do have the answers just from being in the field and the experience of working with Matt in the other areas of the firm with probate and trust administration and also the crisis planning, that I do have some knowledge as to what are the consequences for not doing this, and it's not good. And I could say that with confidence because I work with clients that have gone down that avenue, and it's really hard to watch.
Well, and both of us in the beginning will take the trust and say, okay, here's your trust. And they go, wow, they see all this paper. Oh my goodness. And say, we do not go over this trust line by line. I said, if we did that, you'd probably either be asleep or want to kill me. So we're going to go ahead and move forward, and we're going to do this on a very high level basis. And so you're already priming them that you're not going over it. We're not going to do this. And I say, if you have questions along the way, let me know. And if you want more detail, we certainly can provide more detail, but that's not how we prefer to do it, because the last thing I want you to do is walk out of here saying, what the hell just happened to me?
And this isn't the end of our journey. It's not the end of our relationship. That's what I love about your annual maintenance program, because every year that they come back for their review, if they choose to do that, they're learning one small step of the way, and they know that they have that safety net there. Number one, they could call you anytime, but also with maintenance, that they are going to be getting their annual checkup and review on their planning and make certain that it's still relevant for them.
Well, and I would tell anybody who doesn't have a maintenance program, absolutely start it, because it's optional, right? There's no obligation for them to do that. And then what we do is we include it for the remainder of the year. When we get to September, we include the next year of maintenance. So in our plan, we're already including, anywhere from probably 6 to 12 months of maintenance where they can call and ask questions. They can, they feel like they have that ability to not bother us, but they are entitled to bothering us, if that makes sense.
It does. And I think as you were saying that, just sitting in the client seat, I'm thinking, all right, I don't need to know everything because I'm not afraid to call you back and get a ginormous invoice or bill. I know that I don't need to know all this right now. I'm just so grateful and thankful that I took the leap of faith, that I got the planning in place. And as your life unfolds, that's when the questions will spark and I can call you and I know that you're not going to send me a giant invoice, that I can get what I need.
Exactly. And that's what we do in Vision Meeting. We make it very clear that you're getting maintenance included for the remainder of the year or the following year if it's that late in the year, and what the value is of that. I think there's absolutely a value in doing that because now they feel comfortable for the next 12 months. I don't have to pay a dime, but I have anything I need is that you're there for me.
Plus, they get all the invites for all the workshops that we do, educational workshops,
we do maintenance only workshops,
client appreciation things. So,
yeah.
Well, Matt and Karen, thank you so much for your valuable time today. I know this is going to be helpful for so many listeners, and I cannot recommend for support team and attorneys that are listening. Speaking about value, go to iCanProtect.com and join Matt and Karen, join their law firm blog, pay attention to their social, follow them on LinkedIn and Facebook. And just you can communicate already how they are planting the seed and laying the ground in regards to value that clients are already witnessing in their workshop, in their blogs, in their social platforms, that they are coming from a place of value creation and education first and foremost, so that like know and trust rapport has already been instilled. Thank you for being our guest today.
Molly is awesome. As always, you're awesome. Have a great day.
Thanks.